Actually, I feel quite at home amongst writers because, in some sense, mathematics is all about storytelling, and I think that that's something that we forget about when we teach it at school. That we have some amazing stories to tell, stories about prime numbers, trying to find patterns in primes. Also, a lot of the stories, a lot of mathematics is created by very interesting people throughout history. And so the books that I write try to bring alive the people that create the mathematics. So funnily enough, I feel quite at home here, despite being amongst novelists and composers, and because I think mathematics is as much a creative art as it is a useful science. Yeah, I think there is an educational problem in mathematics, and I think it's you're right that a lot of children get bored by the subjects. Well, that's crazy. I mean, if they're bored, then we should push them to look at the really interesting stories. And I think that's, in a way, what I try to do with my books, is to provide some of the backgrounds to where these big problems came from. And I think that it's a little bit like learning a musical instrument, where you have to do the technical side, you have to learn your scales, your arpeggios, which are a bit boring. But the point is that you also want to hear the music that you're aiming towards playing or creating. And in mathematical education, we tend to forget to play people the music, and we just concentrate on the scales and arpeggios. So I think that's what things like my books and the television programs that I make for the BBC and the radio that I do is trying to show people that there are some really amazing stories out there. But sometimes they're quite difficult, but you know, if kids are bored, then why not challenge them with some more difficult ideas? And I think you see that there were a lot of school kids there in the conference today, and I'm going to talk in a school tomorrow. And what I find is that the kids respond. If you push them, they appreciate that. They appreciate you being challenged. I had a student come up to me and said, "Can you talk about symmetry in 4 dimensions?" And so I started talking to him about how you would do that. And I think, you know, you could see the sparkle in his eye. And so I think that's our failing, is that we don't take risks in our education and try and push people into really interesting new areas. Well, it's very interesting that you say that, because you know, a lot of things that people have problems are about are things like, where did we begin? You know, I think that the whole of religion has come out as a story to try and explain, well, there must have been a beginning, and where did that beginning come from? But actually, why do you think there should be a beginning? Maybe actually we should think of time as being... I think that we think time goes on infinitely into the future, don't you? You don't think suddenly time will stop. Well, why do you think time began? You know, everyone talks about time beginning. Maybe there's an idea of a circle inside there. And in fact, there are solutions to Einstein's equations which show that time could be circular. So I think that symmetry helps us to break often this feeling like there's got to be a beginning and an end. So maybe not. Maybe things are joined up. Well, I think Évariste Galois, who I talked about in my talk today, who was came up with this new language, and I like people who really transform the way we look at things, create new language, create new perspectives. And he's such a romantic figure, you know, killed in a duel at the age of 20 over love and politics, and already had, you know, revolutionised my subject. So I think he's a real hero of mine. Yeah, I choose him. It's interesting that apparently women can actually smell which man is more symmetrical or not. So even if you don't show them a picture of a man, if you give them t-shirts from different men and they smell the t-shirt, the one that they like the best very often corresponds to the man who has the most symmetrical face, which is extraordinary. So the smell of apparently it doesn't go around the other way. Men can't do it for women, but women are very sensitive to. Also, interesting. Smell is another interesting place for symmetry, because you can take a molecule, and if you build it in a mirror way. So there's the molecule for. Let me get this right. Caraway seeds, which have a particular smell. If you take their mirror image, it smells completely different. It smells of spearmint, of mint. So molecules can completely change their character, although it's built out of the same things. If you have a different symmetry. So, for example, drugs, LSD, for example. If you take LSD and take its mirror image, and you take that, it doesn't do anything to your brain at all. So it's only one of the one symmetry makes you go high, the other symmetry doesn't do anything to you. And in fact, there's a very interesting story of a drug which people might know called thalidomide. Thalidomide was a drug that was created for women in morning sickness, and they would take it. And what they discovered was that the drug had a mirror which was poisonous, and so the women were taking this one drug, thinking that it would cure their morning sickness, but the mirror image damaged the fetus, and so the thalidomide, this drug, is now associated with these children who came out with no limbs and things. So it's interesting. One symmetry might be harmful, and another symmetry would help you. So.